Hey everyone, this is an update about my specialized Rockhopper upgrade project. This bike is a 2008 model. I bought it at Johnny Sprockets in Chicago. So pretty old bike, pretty old hardtail. I never put a ton of mileage on this because I live in the city. But all the time I spent on the bike was pretty good. No complaints about the model at all. The only issues I've ever had were mostly just due to not maintaining it well, but I decided to finally give it some TLC. I started upgrading the bike about midway through COVID here, midway through this summer, and this bike used to be just a standard 3x8 setup, pretty typical for the time. It was a Shimano, Acera, and Olivio combination, so it had Acera shifters, quick shift, and Olivio rear derailleur, and Altus front derailleur setup. No real complaints. I always liked the shifting of the bike, but over time it kind of started to show some wear and tear, started to degrade, and so I decided to upgrade the components recently, and I decided to go with the Deore XT Groupset. This is not the full Groupset. I didn't do the brakes with XT, but I went with the M8000 series. And I switched to a 1x11, so pretty significant upgrade for a bike this old, but I had heard a lot of good things about the 1x setup, just in terms of simplicity, getting rid of the two chain rings up front, the two extra chain rings up front, the extra shifter, the extra, the front derailleur, which frankly, I feel like they've been finicky on every bike I've ever owned. And also the 11-speed Groupset, the XT Groupset, seemed to be pretty tried and true and worked pretty well. So I decided to do that upgrade, and I was a little nervous about fitment because the bike was older, but since I had recently upgraded these wheels, which I had also done at Johnny Sprockets, so shout out to them. They used the newer wheel type. So these new wheels, I shouldn't say like the newest, but a little bit newer hubs, so they can support more modern group sets. And so I've had this upgrade on the bike about a month now. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, you live in Chicago, why do you have a mountain bike? Well, I grew up in the suburbs, and I kind of grew up on mountain bikes. And so, I thought, why not, check this thing out? And I also discovered that we actually do have some pretty good trails not too far in Payless Park. There's some really good mountain bike trails. So I decided to, really try to upgrade this bike as much as I can within reason, without kind of blowing out my budget, and, within a range that makes sense without just buying a new bike. And to be honest with you, I thought about buying a new bike as well, but bikes are not really in stock right now during COVID. As I'm sure a lot of you have discovered, it's hard to get parts for any kind of bike. But it's hard to find bikes as well. I have not ruled out getting a new bike. I'm thinking about maybe in the spring probably getting a dual suspension bike, so I'm doing a lot of research on that. But in the meantime, I wanted something that I could take out for the remainder of the year, because I was able to get out there on the trails during the summer, and we still got some fall left, so I'm very happy with the upgrade so far. as far as this Deore XT group set, the reviews that I found online were all very positive. There was a few gripes, but mostly very good reviews on Deore XT, which was kind of no surprise. I always knew that the higher end Shimano group sets were pretty reliable, and you do have to put more money into it, but it's kind of worth it. When you shift on an XT group set, it just shifts with confidence. It feels like very high-end materials, and that's because it is. And they've got the rear derailleur now to a point where, with the clutch system, that you don't really have to worry about the chain falling off, or chain drops rather. And so, this was probably the 8000 series was probably the first go round where Shimano kind of got the one-by system to work really well. And I know the newer XT and XTR setups are supposed to be really good, but they unfortunately changed the hub style that is required for the new group set, and I did not really feel like buying a new set of wheels. And this group set has been out for a while now, so I knew it was more tried and true and proven. So I wanted to, if I was going to spend this kind of money, I wanted to get something that I could trust would work for a long time. But yeah, I'd say the main benefits of this group set, besides the obvious from upgrading from a 3x8 setup, and the simplicity and whatnot, is you can really kind of abuse this thing, and it just takes it. The trails that I've been going on, they're very technical, plenty of climbs, and it shifts under load really well. I have not had any issues with finding gears. That large extra climbing gear, which had a lot of kind of criticism when it came out because of the jump, that's actually been really key, and I haven't noticed any shifting issues with that extra gear. Everything seems to work really well. So big fan so far, and I also I like the noise that this group set makes. I'm using Deore hubs, so I'm not using XT hubs, but for whatever reason, the Deore hubs sound better with this group set, and I'm thinking it's because of the materials that are used on the cassette, and I've read that that's somewhat common. But really nice hub sound and really clean shifts. The other kind of main takeaway for this group set, I would say, is weight savings over the old group set. Losing that front derailleur, that was nice. Losing those extra chain rings. So even with the bigger cassette, there was definitely some weight savings over the legacy group set that it came with. And also, here's the actual shifter. Big fan of this setup, actually. I wasn't sure how I was going to like it compared to the old rapid fire Acera or Olivia that I had, but the cool thing about this shifter, the XT has the option to do upshifting multiple gears and downshifting multiple gears. So especially when you're headed towards a climb, you can upshift several gears at a time, like in one stroke, which is really cool. And then the same for downshifting. So if you want to gain some speed going down a hill, for the next climb, you can either hit this backwards just to do a gear at a time, or you can go forwards and downshift multiple gears. So it's kind of like a short shifting concept almost, like just very easy to, go through the cassette, you know, which again is only 11 speeds, so it's not that bad compared to the old 3x, but the enhanced shifter with the XT model makes it even cleaner and even more performant. So big fan of the XT 11-speed shifter. I think they've probably made things even a little better on the new 12-speed, but again, not as many reviews, not as many years on that Groupset yet. This one has been around for a little while now, so you know, definitely has earned its keep, and I've been happy with the shifting so far. So you can see in here, these wheels have the Deore hubs. So these are not the full XT hubs, but they are Hyperglide, which means they're using the most universal standard. And so when I got the new wheels, you know, that was kind of a key item so that I could use this new Deore XT Groupset. As long as you have a Hyperglide hub, and it can be Deore, it can be XT, it can be XTR, they're kind of all interchangeable as long as they're 11 speed. Basically, if you want to use parts together from different group sets, as long as they're the same speed, you can essentially match them up. So for this 11 speed cassette, there was a specific 11 speed shifter and a specific 11 speed chain for XT, and of course the 11 speed XT derailleur. So all things that I learned throughout this process of upgrading, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. And I definitely noticed a quality difference right away, even just with the hubs alone. But after upgrading to XT and the 1x system, definitely noticed better performance and better feel across the board. There are things you can do. This is a 32 chainring, a 32 teeth chainring. You can probably get a 34 and get a little bit higher speed out of it, higher top speed, but just depends on what you want. To be honest, on the trails, I don't notice at all. It's just when I'm kind of riding standard paved trails, if you're trying to like really go fast, you kind of just run out of gear. And not a huge difference, but definitely noticeable. So something to recommend is do a little bit more research on the front chainring. And this also might not be as much of an issue with the newer 12-speed setups because they have a wider range as well. But yeah, not a big deal, but something to think about. As you can tell, my bike's pretty dirty, so I apologize for that, but kind of give you a close-up here. The XT derailleur, it's got a clutch, you know, built into it here, and you can disengage or engage it to make it easier to take off the wheel, which is nice. And this is, as it's an XT, and I had to change the bottom bracket to get this installed. But it's the newer Holotech style crank, which is really cool. That's where some of the weight savings comes from. And I did go with the XT pedals as well. And I've been really happy with these so far. Pretty clean looking, no issues with grip or anything like that. So yeah, that's kind of the quick and dirty on it. I would say that extremely pleased with the Deore XT lineup so far. I know that SRAM is kind of the leader right now in mountain bike group sets, but I've been using Shimano on every mountain bike I've had and never really had any complaints. So I figured, you know, it was finally time to try some of their higher end stuff, and I'm definitely happy with it. So definitely would recommend it. especially considering, you know, and a lot of other reviews would back this up. It seems that you get most of what is offered in the XTR group set, but for like half the price of the XTR group set. So there's a little bit of weight savings going to XTR because it's race focused, but not enough, in my opinion, to justify double the price. So, but yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on this project. I know it probably seems a little silly to upgrade a bike this old, but it's kind of turned it into a whole new bike. And I'd recommend, if you have an old 3x, you know, and you're interested in an upgrade, you know, just see what kind of wheels you have. As long as you have the kind of the new standard for hubs, then you can pretty much upgrade to whatever, you know, group set you want. You can't do the newest Shimano stuff unless you have, you know, brand new wheels, which will probably be harder to find. But these group sets that are, you know, just a couple of years old, 3-4 years old, you know, if your bike is newer than 2008, you probably can do an upgrade like this. And shout out to Eric's Bike Shop in Skokie, Illinois. They did a great job. Really smooth operation from the get-go. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. Let me know what you think in the comments.